Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today is another edition of the podcast where I bring people on who have stuff that you need to know about. Today's stuff you need to know about is called Balto. Balto is an AI call center platform slash software slash app. And I've invited Mark Bernstein. He's the founder and CEO of Balto onto the podcast. How you doing?
Rich, doing great. Good to be here.
All right. Let's get into this. So, AI call center, that can mean a lot of things. I'm going to let you define it here in just a minute. But I do know this there's a lot of call center type AI things out there. It's a rapidly evolving segment. Look, maybe I'm just late to the game, but I feel like if you go back 3 or 4 years, this wasn't even a thing really. It was like Hatch. Use this to follow up with people. But this call center tech that you guys are doing, it's way past anything like that. So here's what I want you to do. First of all, tell the audience what is it exactly that Balto is, and then we'll kind of lean into some of the areas that it's different. And there's a couple of things about your software that when I saw the demo, I was out speaking at these conferences. You guys were sponsoring the conference. I was speaking, and I saw your guys and talked to them, and they did a demo. And as soon as I did the demo, I was like, okay, this is really, really cool. This needs to go on the podcast. So here you are. So take it away, Mark. Tell us about Balto.
Awesome. Well, I'll actually start with like a little bit of almost like a history lesson, if you will.
Okay.
Um, AI, to some degree, in some shape, way, shape, or form, the AI that's used in call centers today has been around since the early 2000s. And at the time, like folks would call it speech analytics. It actually was invented before then, I believe, actually by the Israeli military, and that's one of the reasons that there's a lot of like speech to text and speech analysis companies in Israel.
Yeah, like Dragon something. You know
Dragon
what?
Speak at the time,
Yeah,
yeah.
there you go.
Yep. And Nuance and which Nuance was ended up being acquired by Microsoft, like really, really cool stuff. And so since the early 2000s, it started with like you would put in keywords. So, the speech analysis can, take whatever you're saying and put it into a transcript. And then you could say, look for the word price. And it says, I found the word price and here's all the calls that had the word price in it. But the functionality was very limited. And the technology has gotten better and better and better. Balto started right around 8.5 years ago. And at that time, what really made us special is we did real time agent guidance, which we call real time guidance. And what it would do is it would use real time speech to text happening right there while you're talking, analyze everything that the representative is saying in your call center as they're saying it, everything the customer on the line is saying as they're saying it, and on the representative's computer screen would give them recommendations with AI of how they can be as effective as possible. So it might say, listen for any time the customer says, yeah, no, sorry, my spouse isn't going to be available. And whenever that happens, pop up on the agent's screen, hey, I totally understand. Let's find a time when you're both going to be together. So that's how we started. And the reason that it feels like AI is brand new is because in late 2022, we all saw a new technology blast into the world economy called ChatGPT, November 2022. And that was built on actually the third version of OpenAI's whatever they call it, their third AI model.
Yep, their platform, whatever it is.
Yep. And GPT-3. Thank you. So that was actually built on GPT-3. So since then, the difference is instead of looking for like individual keywords or like find when they said my spouse isn't available, like find a phrase or a sentence, these GPTs, also known as LLMs, large language models, can go and look through the entire call and talk to you and reason with you and process all of this context. So what Balto has been able to build from the beginning was this real-time agent guidance, and now we're able to build an entire call center AI suite that helps supervisors coach, helps compliance teams monitor all calls to make sure they're compliant, helps quality teams do their scoring, helps leadership dig in and find where are my best opportunities, what's causing customers to book with us or not, what products do they like, where are they having problems. The world has almost infinitely expanded since these LLMs came out in late 2022.
Okay, so just backing up a little bit in your history lesson here. So is it true to say, or is it false, that prior to November 2022, 2, I think is what you said, ChatGPT came out. Were you using an earlier version 1 or version 2 of OpenAI's platform, or were you using something else?
We're using something else. And basically, the models you had to use were very narrow, meaning they're very good at achieving a very specific thing. But if you tried to have them do something else, totally couldn't do it. So we would build an entire model to say, did the customer say my spouse isn't available? Yes or no? And we have one model, and all it does is figure that out. But then if you want another model and say, did the customer ask for a quote on the phone? Oh, that'll be another 3 to 6 months. We'll work on that one. Now, these
Okay.
LLMs have the ability to do all of them from next to next to next to next, one after the other,
In
without
real
any
time.
sort of additional training.
Okay. So, how much, like, how many orders of magnitude smarter is the AI that you're using now compared to, say, 5 years ago or something like that? It's got to be multiple.
Yeah. If I had to give a number, I would say it is approximately 30 to 50 times as smart. Like
Wow.
not
Okay.
not like, 1.5 or 2 times as smart, like 30 to 50 times. Like the models we used before were not able to do reasoning. It would just be able to say, does this meet the criteria I was looking for or not? Did they
Okay.
say that a spouse needs a present or not? Yes or no? There's only options. Now you can say like, okay, tell me, like, is the spouse a male or female? Did they mention the ages? You can go through and ask all of these questions. It's almost like infinitely smart, but I would say it's like 30 to 50 times smarter, the switch from narrow to, intelligence that's now much more generalized.
Okay. So, in terms of what the product Balto actually does, I think what I want to do is start with the demo that I saw. I'm going to tell you what I saw. I'm going to tell you how cool I thought it was compared to other things I've seen, and then I'll let you use that as a jumping off point because I'm sure that this demo I saw was like, hey, here's one really cool feature, and then there's probably like 82 other things that I'm not even aware about that I want you to tell us about. Well, maybe not 82, but maybe the top three, four, five. So the demo I saw uh, I'm going to contrast it against some of the products that are out there that are AI agents that talk to customers using voice. In other words, there's products out there like Structurally, as an example. I'm a big fan of Structurally, by the way. So Structurally will reach out, call your prospects, and then it'll have a conversation with them using an AI voice bot. And my take on that is that it's pretty darn good. I would say it's like 90%, which sounds like a big percent, but then it's like, well, how reliable do you want the airplane to be when it lands? Like 90% is pretty good. Yeah, but the other 10% really makes a huge difference. And I think that there's some use for products like Structurally and other similar ones, especially if you're just trying to pound through leads and call back and hit a huge database. In your case, this is for an actual human talking to a person. So we're instead of having a voice AI chatbot, we've got an actual human. And so, like what you were saying a minute ago, this is the demo I saw. The person is talking on the phone to a prospect or a customer, and in real time, as they speak, their screen is prompting them on what to say next. So, in my imagination, it works like this. If you take a different system that uses the voice bot, it's the AI is telling the voice bot what to say, and then it's actually saying it. It's all simultaneously. It's seamless. In your case, you're using an actual human, but it's being prompted. It's almost this sounds terrible, but look, this is the age we're in. So let's just all get used to it, please. It's almost like the puppet with the strings, and now the AI has the human puppet going, okay, say this, now say this, now say this. And dynamically, whatever is being said by the agent is then being responded to by the customer, and now immediately in real time, completely seamlessly, the AI saying, okay, this is your next thing to talk about. But now the human agent can say it in their own words as a human and have a more what shall we say, humanistic experience. Okay, did I get that right, first of all? And what did I miss in that explanation?
Yeah, at the highest level, you totally got it right. A lot of folks right now are interested in these AI voice bots where it's like a, AI bot that you talk to. And I've seen that be really successful with appointment reminders. appointment confirmations. I've also seen it successful in after hours scheduling.
Okay.
But if someone's calling, in hours, and you paid a lot of money for that lead, the last thing you want is somebody hears an AI bot right now and they just go, "I'm not dealing with an AI," and then they hang up and call your competitor. You don't want that. So what we do at Balto is we do what we call a human in the loop. And that is that the human is actually sitting there having a conversation. You're talking to a real person, in a
Human in the
appointment
loop
setting
sounds a lot
for
nicer than human on the
human
puppet
puppet
strings.
master. Yep. And I would actually say that the way to think about it is in reverse. Like the strings are actually being pulled by the person. So, what's happening, and the reason we named the company Balto is, are you familiar at all with the story of Balto from the 1920s?
Well, anybody that knows me knows that I am overzealously curious. So as soon as I saw the name Balto when I met your folks, I was like, is this like the movie Balto, the kids cartoon movie? And they said, yes, but it's based on the actual story. So why don't you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so it was 1925, and there's this little town in northwest Alaska called Nome, Alaska. And there was an outbreak of diphtheria, which is deadly if you don't get an antitoxin for it. And the closest antitoxin was in Anchorage, over 674 miles away. Well, they couldn't get the antitoxin into Nome uh, through planes because actually the planes at the time were too brittle and the winter was too hard and the engines would freeze. So you couldn't fly during the winter. You also couldn't take a ship because the seas would be totally frozen over. So to get the antitoxin from Nome or from Anchorage all the way to Nome, they had to do 20 back-to-back, a relay of back-to-back dog sled teams. And Balto was the lead dog in the last team that brought the antitoxin into Nome and saved the entire town. And we love the analogy there, which is Balto is using his sense of smell to stick to the trail. He's able to get the other dogs mushing in the same direction. But Balto's not in charge. Balto's not like, hey, let's go save this town. The human, the musher, is in charge. And that is the relationship that we think people and AI should be having, where AI is using abilities it has, but people are the ones who are really in charge. So when you think about how our AI is giving guidance to people, it is not. In fact, you shouldn't. You even touched on this, Rich. Say every word, word for word, that the AI
Yeah.
tells you. Like, that's not going to go well. But if you're a new rep and you're just getting on the floor, always having something to say is helpful. If you're a tenured rep and someone says, "Hey, do you have this certain material or color?" And you're like, "Let's see, do we have that?" What if you could just search it? Or Balto could tell you and say, "Yep, we have that material or color." So depending on your tenure, the way that you end up using this AI is different.
So let's talk about that. I think it's obvious that newer people, less experienced people, this is going to be a massive, you know, boon for them. It's going to be very, very helpful. Let's talk about that more experienced rep. What are you seeing in terms of it being helpful for them? You gave an example of, do we have that color? And maybe this tenured rep isn't, maybe it's a huge inventory, so they don't know. Balto
Yep.
brings that up immediately. But so that's pretty obvious. But what less obvious things are going to be helpful for the more tenured uh, rep?
Yep. I would say there's two big things, and it's answers and note taking. With answers, what Balto will do is you can actually type it in and ask it, just like you talk to ChatGPT. You can ask it any question, and it'll search all of the previous calls, see if that question has come up, see what the answers the other top people or your top performers in your company are giving, and say, hey, here's how that question was previously answered. So what that means is the information that you simply couldn't memorize. That's where it's really useful. Answers, information you couldn't memorize. You can't keep every single thing on the top of your head. You know how to set an appointment. You know how to make sure the spouse is at the meeting. You know how to make sure that you're doing the call compliantly and handle any sort of objections that come up. You know how to do that. But what you don't know is, if you have this particular SKU from this year that matches something with this house, like you can't memorize that. So
Okay.
number one, answers.
Okay, so in,
Number
in
two, yeah,
autonomous driving, which is something that I pay a lot of attention to because, frankly, I'm a pretty big investor in Tesla. They're always talking about edge cases. Okay, you're trying to train this AI, and when it comes to driving, it's easy to train a car to drive down the middle of the street in the middle of the day with, modest traffic, but it's the edge cases. What happens when a child runs out? What happens if there's a cone in the road? What happens if it's dark? What happens if it's snowing? These edge cases. So it sounds like, to use that terminology, the edge cases is where this is really going to come in handy for these tenured reps. It's like a random question that I have no business knowing off the top of my head. Now I seem like I know it off the top of my head.
Spot on. And the thing is, just like how, Tesla self-driving, uh, it, it would find edge cases challenging. That's where they bring in the human driver, right? So that's where the AI says, hey, listen, I've recognized this is an edge case. Here's, I'm noticing a warning. Human driver, you should take over. So it's that same sort of relationship where the AI is going to say, hey, here's the answer to a question that you don't get very often. I'm giving you the best answer I have, but you, the human in the loop, are in charge and need to decide if this is the best thing to communicate to the customer at this time.
Yeah, and to just further that analogy of the edge cases with the autonomous driving, what the autonomous driving is doing is it's looking, so it's capturing in real time video from millions of cars all over the world. And so when it sees something that is an edge case and it identifies, hey, this is not a normal thing, this is weird, it starts to build a database, and it says, okay, a deer ran out into the road, and it sees that happen over the course of a couple years. It sees it happen maybe, I'm making up numbers now, 185 times. And then what it's doing is it's watching how did the human driver respond when that edge case happened, and then it starts to build an understanding of what to do so that if it's autonomous and the deer comes out, it now has this training data. And it sounds like the same thing here. It's like you said, hey, let's go search all of the other conversations that any of our reps have ever had, and let's find that. Okay. And then those things become more and more common and easy to deal with. Okay, so that's good. That was number one. It was answers. What's number two?
Note taking. And that is, how much time do you spend at the end of the call doing wrap up saying, spoke to customer, they wanted linoleum, they have an old house from 1940, need to expect for radon. Like, how much time do you spend at the end of the call doing that sort of wrap up? You can have an AI listen for all those things, generate highly specific notes. So not like give me a general summary of what happened, but highly specific notes. Say, look for this, look for the product, look for, the age of the home, look for this, look for this, look for this. And at the end of call, 2, 3 seconds, say I've generated notes for you on that.
So
So
I'm
that
assuming that can be
time
templated.
savings. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're creating a template for the AI, and the AI fills it in with the real information.
Okay, so at the end of the call, this would happen obviously before that particular call. The company is going to specify, here's the type of data that I want pulled from the call and put, into the CRM or into these fields, whatever. So that would be the template, and then anything that it doesn't find, will it say, hey, we don't have this information, so it alerts you that you're missing info?
Exactly right. It'll save it right to the CRM, and it'll also show it to the agent at the end of the call. And if one of your fields is, did they mention whether they have any pets in the home, and the agent didn't ask, it'll say, no pets were mentioned, or never discussed. You can have it prompt with whatever you want it to say if it doesn't hear the thing it hears, but it won't make it up.
Okay. Now I know that you are using the pets in the home as just a sort of random example that you're making up on the spot here. But let's assume that that was an important thing, particularly maybe for a flooring company, I think is the example you're using. So now can Balto examine each rep and collectively all the reps and see who's not asking the appropriate questions, and then course correct and say, hey, Dave over here is continually not asking if they've got pets and we need to know. And then I guess taking it a step further, now Balto's going to be like, yo, Dave, ask the guy about pets.
Yep. So now we can take a minute and zoom out. We were focused on what do we do if you're the live call center agent sitting there and you're talking to the customer. Now you zoom out and say, we gathered all this data. Where can it go? And yes, where it can go is it can say, let me show you every one of your call center reps, top to bottom, and show you the percentage of time that each one of them asks about pets. Boom, stack ranked right there. Or you can say, every time they don't ask about pets, take it and automatically send it to one of their supervisor's coaching inboxes for coaching. The supervisor comes in and they log into Balto and says, you have, 5 calls to review today. And it'll show all the calls where that thing
Oh,
wasn't
so
mentioned.
it's tattling on the reps.
See, it can.
Hey, if I'm the call center manager, that's what I want.
Yep. And the thing is, you know, when you set up the system well, it ends up being self-reinforcing, right? So it says they didn't ask about pets. The supervisor sees it. The supervisor coaches them, and the agent goes, "All right, I think I now need to do this." So like it aligns everyone's expectations. And actually, that's one of the things we've seen. I did an interview with a customer just the other day, and they were talking about how one of the biggest benefits was cultural change and how their QA team used to just pick out random calls to score because say we got to score in order to make sure our call center has
Yeah.
high enough quality. So I pick out random calls, and then what does that lead to? It leads to reps saying, "Hey, well, that wasn't fair. That only happened once. That wasn't my best call. Like, come on, I'm a top performer, and now you're taking my bonus away." And that creates cultural friction. But
Yeah.
Balto was able to give them a complete view of all of their calls and quality score all of their calls. If that's the case, then you have really like valid, hard data on how often this stuff is happening and allows everyone to see the same thing and not have that back and forth of, well, QA said
Well,
this, but I really did this.
and here's the flip side of that. The flip side is equally as important to the company, well, and to the rep as well, which is if they're only selecting, statistically, whatever, 2% of calls and listening or something, I'm sure it's a relatively small number. They might catch the guy messing up at one time, so that there's friction there. But more likely, they're not catching them messing up because they're only messing up 3, 4, 8, 10% of the time, and we're not catching it. So they're going to continue to mess up because there's no reliable mechanism for catching that. Like I'm more
Yeah.
concerned about that than I am busting a guy's chops for something he only did once and I happened to catch it.
Totally. And the thing is, if you want to look at like what your opportunities are to drive more revenue and drive better efficiency and a better experience for your customers, the answer rarely is, oh, there's one thing. You fix this one thing and you're all
Yeah.
done and you fixed your business. The answer usually is, well, there's some weak spots over here, there's some weak spots over here, weak spots over here, and each one of those things by itself might not be the biggest deal, but you add it up and boom, there's half your revenue's gone. So that's what we do is we help show you your weak spots, in your call center are here, 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 here. That happens on 38% of all of your calls. If you were to fix that, you'd be able to, improve your revenue or improve your customer experience by 2x. That's like the way we think about driving performance at these call centers.
So compare Balto and the kind of the totality of everything it's doing that you just described. Compare it to an in-house call monitoring software like Siro or Rila, because there's a lot of similarities. There's some key differences, but the reason I'm asking you to make that comparison is I think the majority of my audience is familiar with those types of softwares at this point of the game. 2 years ago, not so much. A year ago, 50-50. Now it's probably like 80-20 know about this. So kind of compare that a little bit.
Yeah, Siro and Rilla are fantastic. I've met Sebastian a few times. That guy, he's the CEO founder of Rilla, and he is like a unique and brilliant personality. Like he's one of a kind.
He's a
And the
personality,
same
all
thing.
right.
Yeah, yeah, and he goes hard. I mean, he drives that team hard to to produce really great results, and is a great product mind. And then we've done a number of webinars and stuff with Zero Two. We tend not to compete with them with either of those folks. We tend to be complementary because their products are geared toward you have a rep in the home who's talking to the customer. How can that interaction be as effective as possible? And we're really focused on everything in your call center, everything in your customer service center, everything in your sales center, everything in your billing department. Like we're focused on those interactions. So it's less about, how do you make sure you structure a great presentation when you're there with the customer, and more about what are all the opportunities about things that you want to know when your customers are calling in your call center, for an appointment or for a cancellation, or if you're trying to, do some sort of rehash or requote opportunity, like where are your opportunities there? So where we tend to focus is different.
So I'm going to put a fine point on that. And I'm talking right now to all of you out there who specifically are familiar with Siro and or Rila. And there's a few others, but those two are primary in this industry. If you use those products and you're sold on the purpose of those and you've seen the results, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't, there's nobody I can think of that I've met that says, oh yeah, we used those products and didn't really work, so we quit. I don't know anybody that said that. Everybody says, oh my gosh, these are revolutionary. They make a huge difference. If you're that person using those products in your sales team, this is essentially the same type of thing, but for your call center. So if you want those same efficiencies, that same feedback loop, that same ability to improve incrementally through this AI process, this is that just for your call center.
If you think about it, when does a customer reach your call center? Either first or last.
Yep.
Either first because they're saying, "Hey, I'm trying to get to know your company." So this is your first impression to, win the appointment and ultimately get a job. Or last, hey, something didn't go quite like I wanted it to, or we're in the installation phase and something's wrong with the installation. Like that's when they're reaching out to your call center. So if you're only focusing on your folks in the field, you're driving revenue, but you're missing two very important parts of the funnel, the beginning and the end. So if you have a Rilla or a Siro and you're getting good results there, like I think it wouldn't be too much of a leap to say Balto is the Rilla or Siro for your call center.
Well, that's why I'm saying it that way, because I know that there's a lot of people out there listening to this that are absolutely sold on those products. And I just want them to understand this is essentially, there's key differences. We've talked about them, but this is essentially the same thing, but for your call center. So if you're saying, hey, I'm going to spend money and I'm going to use this for my in-home reps, why wouldn't you use this for your call center? That would just be foolish not to use this for your call center. Now, here's what's going to get really cool, Mark. In the future, when you take that Rilla or Siro and you take the Neuralink in the back of your head, now you've got Balto telling the person what to say in the house. That's scary.
Yeah. The future is going to be interesting. The future is going to be really interesting. I think, and I'll totally pretend I'm taking that question 100% seriously. I think that implants are a little ways away. We have seen, Neuralink specifically with folks who have neurological capabilities. The idea of using AI or some sort of implant for actual enhancement is feasible, but it is a ways away. You know what's right here, right now? AI is about to be as smart as a human, as smart as a typical human, and capable as a typical human, able to, operate the internet just like you can, able to go and browse and click around websites, able to hit people up in Slack or Teams, able to send emails, able to have voice conversations. AI is going to be at that level, I think, within the next 2 to 3 years. So we're going to have, basically AI coworkers, and every company is going to have your human workers and your AI coworkers. And when someone says, "What's your head count?" you're going to say, "Oh, we have about 50 people and 20 AIs." Like that's what the future, the very near future, is about to be like.
Yeah. Well, maybe a short-term version, instead of having the Neuralink and Balto talking to that for the salesperson, maybe it's like an ear monitor and it's just talking to them.
Like kind of, and then you get to Minority Report, and maybe it's in their eyes. Like,
There you
you
go. There you
know,
go.
there's so many options. But what I'll really come back to, Rich, is like, we want to, so our mission is to power a new era of knowledge work in the contact center. And the idea is if you are in a call center now and it feels like a freaking grind and it feels repetitive and annoying and like you're not actually really using your full brain, our goal at Balto is to make the work you're doing like really interesting, like challenging, thoughtful work where you're putting your skills to work, where you're delivering an experience for the customer that's not just the same thing every time, but like you're taking your human brain power and working with an AI and figuring out how can I do something better than either of us could do alone. Like we're trying to power a new era of knowledge work in the contact center. So it's going to feel different. And hopefully the goal is people get paid more because you're all turning into specialists. You are AI specialists and you are doing something that isn't just like rote labor you could do in a developing country. I think we're going to see wages go up in that area because of it.
So do you see a time in the future where Balto evolves to having AI voice bot agents that are actually talking to people? Because right now it seems to me that there's kind of a two-edged problem there. Number one is the technology is not quite good enough. It's detectable by humans that, hey, I'm talking to an AI. And then there's also a reluctance to talk to AIs. But if you go back, 20 years ago, you would call on the phone and you would get like a voicemail tree, and you'd be like, I'm not talking to a machine," and you'd hang up and you'd be pissed. Now, you call American Airlines, Delta Airlines, whatever, you know you're going to talk to a robot before you ever get through to a human, and you're just fine. So I think there will
Yep.
be like an eventual people getting used to the idea that they're talking to a robot, and it'll become more acceptable. So do you see Balto moving in that direction in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. It is essential that we do so. We need to have a complete offering, and that will be an important part of the offering. But you're right, Rich, that there's two things that need to catch up in order for that really to deliver. The first, the technology needs to continue to improve, and right now it's able to do some great things. So by no means throw it out, but it's not as good, it's not human level yet. So technology needs to advance, and it will advance very quickly. Next 1 to 2 years, we'll see a massive improvement in what it's capable of. It'll be near indistinguishable from a person. But the second then is social expectations, and there needs
Yeah.
to be some social acceptance. And people are adaptable and they change, but they take their time. They drag their feet a little bit. So there will be a few years where people are kind of dragging their feet and companies are slowly figuring it out, introducing more and more AI bots. It's not like
Well, and
tomorrow they're going
there's
to snap their fingers and see it everywhere, even if the
yeah.
technology was perfect.
Well, and there's an age component here too, right? So younger people are going to be very easy. They're not going to have a problem talking to a robot, probably now, and definitely in a year or two. Most of our customers, when I say ours, I mean in this industry, are going to be older people. Uh, Windows, roofing, siding, HVAC, kitchens, baths, all that kind of stuff. It's homeowners that typically are a little bit older, so there might be a little bit of a lagging acceptance curve from that demographic.
Yeah, yep, definitely. There's definitely a demographic element to it. But even on the younger side, what's interesting is we might find that younger people, are reluctant to talk to these bots, and they might say, "I don't have time for this," and set their own bot up to talk to the bot. So I think we're going to start to see that soon. They're going to say, "Oh, I don't deal with this. Hey, my personal bot, go talk to that bot and end up like answering all their questions. I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, no, before 1972. Yes, no, 3,000 square feet. You're not going to hear that."
Have you seen the demo? I've seen this video online. Sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but the video is a guy has a phone, like an iPhone, and he calls and he has his phone talking to another phone, bot to bot.
Yep.
Have you seen this demo?
You're
And
talking
after about 10 seconds, they switch from
Jabberlink?
English to some weird tone.
Yep. So it's called, if I want to make sure I pronounce it right, I think it's Jabberlink. And Jabberlink is a audio language, basically a series of different beeps and sounds that AIs can exchange in order to talk faster. So, like if you're an AI bot, you don't need to use your words.
Yeah.
You just need to communicate some information. And it turns out you can communicate information faster through a series of like beeps. So
Yeah.
they do all these beeps, and one will go, boop, 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 and the other goes, boop, 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 and they go back and forth. So I have seen that, and
This
we're
is where
going,
we're headed, like inevitably.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Well, it's good to know that Balto will be there to navigate these waters, whatever happens. I think whatever we think is going to happen, we're probably 50% right, and the other 50% is crap we can't even imagine yet because oh my gosh. I will say this on the adoption curve. Like I said, I follow Tesla and automated driving quite closely. And when recently they started their robotaxi service in Austin, you go on social media and there's thousands and thousands of comments, and like 80% of them are, I would never get in a taxi without a driver. Hell will freeze over before I do that. I'm like, these people have no idea. They have no idea that in 5 years you will be stupid to purchase an automobile.
Yeah.
5 years.
Or again, talk about like things that are hard to predict. You'll purchase an automobile and you'll turn it on to robo taxi mode during the day. And so you take your you take your car to work and
Yep.
it drops you off at work. And then you say, instead of sitting in the parking lot, go give a bunch
Yep.
of people rides and make me some money and then come pick me back up at 5 p.m.
Yeah. But in that case, it's not even a car. It's just a business opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the really amazing thing about AI um, is that it is shortening the window from having an idea or a thought or an intention and that thing actually happening.
Mm.
Like there was this awesome video I saw last week about a 90-year-old who coded a new event reservation application for his church. Had no idea how to code. He went on to one of these automatic code builders and types in questions and works with the AI code builder, and he's able to make an entire event reservation system for his church. He's 90 years old.
That's
So
amazing.
think about if you wanted to do that before AI and how you got to go find a contractor and then you have someone who is making the app for you and they tell you it's late and they tell you it's going to be more money and you don't understand coding so you don't really know why it's more money. They say,
Yeah.
sorry, it's going to
You
be
can't even
more.
QC it.
Yep. And then it comes and it's like not really what you wanted and you're like, ah, shoot. Is there something out of the box I can use? I just spent $20,000 on this. Now it's
Okay.
you and an AI app for 2 days.
Okay. Well, this concludes the where are we going with AI portion of the conversation. It's kind of fun. Thank you. Thank you for indulging that little side trip. Let's go back over to Balto as we start to land the plane here, so to speak. Um, how much does it cost to use this product?
Honestly, it depends. It really does. Our standard minimum is 20,000. So 20,000 a year.
Twenty thousand
Um,
dollars a year.
yep, that's our standard minimum. We'll
And
make some.
how many call center seats would that typically involve?
Tends to be around 15 or so. So if you got
Okay.
15 folks in your call center, you're looking at something like 20,000. But it really depends. And I'll give you an example. We have two different plans depending on like how much AI consumption you want. By AI consumption, we give everyone all the products. So we say you get all the products, you have full access to the products, but if you want to lower your rate, you can kind of max them out. We say, oh, sorry, you only get to, look for 5 different compliance items, right? You can type in 5 things. We'll scan 100% of calls and make sure they're compliant in those 5 areas. Or you go to the higher plan and you get 20 items. So there's a lot of like back and forth like that. And then you can customize, but the ballpark is if you have like a 10 to 15 seat, call center, we can find a way to work with you and it'll be something like 20 grand.
Okay, and if I'm a $3 million window company with a couple people on the phone, probably not a great fit at this moment.
Probably not at the moment.
Okay. Now, I'm going on memory here, and I'm going to say this quickly, and then I'm going to move on because I don't want to discuss it. I had a conversation with your guy at the conference about how to make this available to smaller companies. I don't remember
Yeah.
what it was, but
You're
it
letting the
was
cat
good.
out of the bag. We're looking at it. We are
Well,
looking.
I want a royalty every time you do it because I'm certain that whatever you are thinking of was never thought of before I thought of it.
You're right. You were the brainchild of that. No, exactly, Rich. What you're thinking about is like, and I'll just be honest for your listeners here. Like, we are thinking about the product now is easy enough to use that you don't need like an IT team to really set it up and make it useful. And you used to very much need an IT manager or somebody who knew how to use speech analytics. But now if you got a few folks on the phone, you can set it up and make it useful, like without a ton of legwork. So we're thinking, do we go to smaller customers? But we know a lot of times, when your business is smaller, like, it's a lot rockier, right? Like some years are really good, some years might not be so good. So we want to make sure that the customer base that we're working with, is stable and moving forward. So we're workshopping it. So I would say, if you're smaller and you're really interested based on what you heard today, worth a conversation. Shoot us a note. Say you heard about it on this podcast, and I'll let our team know to make sure that we talk to you, give you the time of day, and see if we can work out a deal with you.
Yeah, I think you know, I hope that you guys can work that out. I'm not obviously not trying to tell you how to run your business or, what do they call it? Feature creep in software. Oh, what if you did this? What if you did this? And it's easy to talk about and it's hard to execute on. But I hope that you can move in that direction because uh, there's like this, the income inequality thing. I'm not a big income inequality thing, but there's like this opportunity inequality thing with home improvement companies. The big guys that have more resources, they've got the budget for all of these different kinds of tech stack items that are really making them more efficient and more effective. And meanwhile, you've got the smaller companies who don't necessarily have the resources and like they're just going to get crushed. I'm not talking about Balto. I'm talking about
Yeah.
across the board.
No, I know exactly what you mean. And honestly, I don't know if they will get crushed. I see that like the technology might not be there, but the thing is, if you got one or two or three people, and or you're a small company, like there's a lot of people that love knowing that they can get to the owner. A lot of people love knowing that like you are a neighborhood company that you live, 15 minutes that way. A lot of people really, really appreciate that. And as AI causes companies to go to bigger and bigger and bigger scales, and we kind of become a world where a lot more stuff is automated and mechanized. Being someone that they can have a handshake with, that lives in their area and like really knows, like, and really cares about your craft, that might help you stand out. So I wouldn't count the little guy out at all.
I hear you. I think there's a lot to be said for that. A lot to be said for that. Yeah, we've had a lot of success in from a marketing standpoint because that's what we do. We help with messaging. Some of these smaller companies go out and slay the Goliaths by talking about how we're not private equity owned. We don't have big bosses and with big budgets in New York City that are, raising our prices. We're small. We're right here. We're, veteran owned. So I think there's a lot of a lot of credence to what you're saying right now. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Tell me what's the best way for people to learn more to take the next step.
Balto.ai. Go to Balto, BALTO.ai. The little chat bot will come up and say, hey, I want a demo, or go to there's probably a button, a big, easy button to find, says get demo or something like that. You should be able to find it super easily, but Balto.ai, our website's the way to go. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm linkedin.com/in/Balto CEO.
In slash, not dash.
Yep. So linkedin.com/in/Balto CEO.
Okay. Mark, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Enjoyed the conversation. You got a great product. I hope people do the demo and get moving with this. Like I said earlier, if you're doing Siro or Rila and you somehow draw a conclusion that you shouldn't do this, that just makes no sense to me. It's like an incoherent conclusion.
Yeah,
So get
Rich.
on it, people.
Thank you so much for having me on. And folks, like, just see it, right? At the very least, you'll get smarter. You'll say, oh, cool, I get more how AI works and more what it can do. So if you hear this and you got this far, congratulations. Just go see the tech, and you can judge for yourself if it's the right fit for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Talk to you next time.
Thanks, Rich.